Again, thank you. Welcome to our 2021-2022 career orientation for this upcoming school year. We briefly want to introduce our administrative team to you. My name is Sean True, and I am the principal of Career High School.
Good afternoon. Thanks for calling U-Haul. This is Jacqueline. How can I help you?
You need to mute Jacqueline. There you go. Good morning. I'm Miss Joyner. I am an assistant principal at Career High School.
Good morning. My name is Steve Ciarcia, and I'm assistant principal at Career High School as well.
Need to mute Jacqueline. There you go. Good morning. I'm Miss Joyner. I am assistant principal at Career High School. I think we're hearing the YouTube part, maybe. Miss Williams.
Ms. Williams, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Williams. Bear with me for a second. I'm the MRT. We're having a bit of an echo. I just got to turn one of these mics on. So please don't start as yet, Mr. True, until I give you the go-ahead. Okay?
Very good. And it would be a great time for our parent liaison. Ms. Beaton, would you like to introduce yourself for everybody, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Williams, would you like to
introduce
yourself to everybody?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Williams. Bear with me for a second. We're having a bit of an echo. I just got to
It's echoing quite a bit, so I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm Mrs. Beaton, the parent liaison. So right now I'm getting tons of emails for Power School. So please, if you need to fill out your forms and you need some help, don't hesitate to contact me. I am more than happy to help you with that process.
Thank you, Mrs. Beaton.
Okay. Can we confirm that our echo is gone, or do we think it's still there?
It appears to still be there.
What about now?
Now it sounds good.
Now it's way much better?
Yes.
Okay. So in all honesty, I think we may have to start again because that was not clear at all. You know, with anything with computers, there's a glitch, but very happy it's fixed. So that was the test trial, Mr. True.
Absolutely.
Go again.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So again, welcome to our 2021-2022 career orientation for this upcoming school year. I'd like to take this moment for you to meet our administrative team, and we'll go around and introduce ourselves to you. My name is Sean True, and I am the building principal.
I'm Monica Joyner, assistant principal.
Steve Ciarcia, assistant principal.
Ms. Williams? She may be preoccupied. She's doing a couple of things at the same time.
And I am the lovely Mrs. Williams trying to get your PowerPoint up. I am the MRT here, and we are ready to rock and roll.
And then again, Ms. Beaton, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mrs. Beaton, the parent liaison.
And very importantly, before we get into our PowerPoint, any problems or troubleshooting that we can do as far as Power School access, parent portal, student portal information, please reach out to Ms. Beaton, and we will do everything to support you so to make this experience more enjoyable. So again, welcome. So you've met the team. And so we're going to briefly go through a PowerPoint, and each of us will have different topics that we're talking about. So as we look ahead for this new school year, the 2021-2022 school year, we certainly anticipate new challenges and opportunities as a result of COVID-19. But as we continue to navigate these difficult circumstances and ever changing situations, our first and foremost is that we want to make sure that everyone remains safe as we welcome students and families, students and staff back to the building. Please be reminded when students return that all students must wear a mask at all times while in the school building. While learning and academic successes are still our primary goal for all students, as I had mentioned earlier, the health and safety of everyone is the utmost importance. So again, welcome, and we look forward to welcoming everyone back here 5 days a week in person. So some of our opening protocols for our upcoming school year are as follows. As I said, mask wearing and 3 to 6 feet distancing. Everyone, again, is required to wear a mask, an acceptable mask in the building. Everyone must keep their mask on and in place throughout the entire school day, regardless of how many people are in the room. Masks must be worn properly, covering the mouth and nose and not open at the bottom. Again, we're asking to maintain that 3 to 6 foot distance around each other and certainly around teacher work areas. Here are some examples of acceptable masks for staff and students. Acceptable masks are cloth or disposable masks that are to be worn at all times. We ask you to please not wear the gaiters, bandanas, scarves, or masks with valves or vents. And here clearly there are examples of the top row that are acceptable, the bottom row are unacceptable masks. If for any reason your child forgets to bring his or her mask to school, we do have disposable masks for them. But we strongly encourage you to be mindful and bring your mask and wear your mask at all times every day in the school building. The mask, again, to reiterate, the mask policy, all students, teachers, staff, and visitors over the age of 2 years old must wear a mask, cloth or disposable, please no gaiters again, while on school grounds, on the bus, and during all school activities as per the state of Connecticut law. Medical exemption is required for all exceptions. Any students or staff who come into the building and has forgotten their mask, again, we will provide you with a disposable mask. We certainly would adhere to and provide mask breaks. They will be given during breakfast and lunch, both inside and outside of the cafeteria. Extra mask breaks can be given if requested, no longer than a 10-minute break. Staff may remove their masks in settings where they're working alone or in segregated spaces. Again, wearing a mask is part of the hygiene. We have to be mindful, taking off your mask carefully when you're at home. Common sense to this prevails, and always washing your hands thoroughly, not touching your eyes, nose, and mouth once you remove your mask. Okay, an example here, we get into scheduling. We have a 4-block scheduling with an advisory period built in. Traditionally, our blocks are 83 minutes. We'll have both an A day and a B day. On the right-hand side, you have what's called an advisory/flex schedule. We won't be getting into that particular usage of that schedule until a little bit into the school year, and that will probably be discussed more thoroughly throughout our presentation. But just to give you an example, 83-minute blocks, we have the lunch periods built in there, and that takes us right through the breakfast, the lunch, and the dismissal process. So 7:45 till 2:15. This is important. Schedules will be available on PowerSchool when they are completed. We are still in the midst of fine-tuning and working on schedules as we speak, and we thank our illustrious department, our school counselors, and many hands that are involved in shoring up the schedules and such, and making them so that they are ready to go for you. If you are new to New Haven and need access, please let us know, and it will help you with that process. Again, you'd reach out to Ms. Beaton, our parent liaison, for that help. This is also important with the scheduling and such. Schedule changes. No changes to schedule will be made during the first week of school. You are to remain in your assigned classes, If you have a hole in your schedule during that time period, you report to the auditorium during that time only, not before or after. Our schedule change window will be from September 6th through September 17th. Mitigation strategies, again, to help prevent and stop the spread of germs. We maintain that 3 to 6 social distancing. It's always important whenever coughing or sneezing that you cover your mouth appropriately, washing your hands immediately, throwing tissues and such in the proper trash receptacles. When in public, certainly within the school building and such, wearing the mask properly over your nose and at all times. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Cleaning practices are going to be done frequently and throughout the entire school building every day. And we'll get more into that when we touch upon those protocols and practices. And most importantly, if you're not feeling well and you're feeling sick, please stay home. That's really, really important. And again, I can't emphasize enough, wash your hands with soap and water and be mindful of practicing these good mitigation strategies to keep all of us safe and to keep our school buildings open. Again, part of the career mitigation strategies, all people on school grounds will be required to wear face masks, coverings, either a cloth mask or a disposable mask. The building is cleaned regularly with high touch surfaces cleaned every few hours throughout the day, throughout the building. Social distancing again in classrooms and around the building as best as we possibly can. And please continue safety processes and protocols which are in place. You can certainly refer to our school website at careerhighschool.org for the most updated information pertaining to cleaning, the career mitigation strategies, or anything else helpful information throughout our school. And we'll turn it over to our next presenter, please.
So before I even start, I see a question, someone put, her daughter hasn't gotten her schedule. When will they receive them? So to answer that question, I'm sure it'll come up on another slide. Schedules are still being fixed. There have been some glitches within Power School, so schedules are being fixed and adjusted. You just need to, if you wouldn't mind being patient with us, you can check. Ms. Harrell is working on them diligently. I promise you, all day, every day, she's working on schedules. So hopefully we will have as much as possible fixed by the end of the school day on Friday, so that when your students start to school on Monday, they will have a schedule that is as close as possible to what they will keep for the rest of the year. And also, just to reiterate what Mr. True just said, during the first week of school, there won't be any schedule changes made at all. Whatever they have is what they have to go with, unless they have a hole in their schedule. And by hole, I mean, if they have a first period class, a second period class, but no third period class listed, but they do have fourth period class, then third period is their hole. So during the time that they have a hole in their class, they're to report to the auditorium, and the counselors will be there to address that issue and will be cleaning up those holes. So we're trying to get as many of those done as possible this week. But you know, with 700 people, 700 schedules, there is a possibility that some will slip through the cracks, and we'll take care of those next week. And then the following week, we'll take care of changes that people may need. All right. One of the, as we all know, we've all lived through this COVID experience, this pandemic for going on 2 years now, seems like. So we all know about screening, and we know those questions that we're asked when we walk into a doctor's office or into some stores or whatever. People are asking certain questions. Those are the questions that you will actually need to ask yourself and need to check with your students to make sure that things are going well enough for them to come to school. So there is a screening tool that you just need to ask these questions. Has your child had a fever? Is your child experiencing certain symptoms? Has your child been exposed to someone with COVID in the last day or two? You know, those types of things. You need to ask those questions. And then if you answer yes to any of those questions, then you need to keep your child home and call the main office. The number is there, just to let us know that they're staying home, what their symptoms are. Then call your pediatrician or the school nurse to get further guidance. We are absolutely encouraging all families to register at the school-based health clinic, because in the absence of being able to get into your pediatrician, if you're registered at the school-based health clinic, you can actually come and see someone there for things like, even when you need your physical forms, physicals can be done in the school-based health clinic. So there are a number of issues that can be taken care of at the school-based health clinic without having to go to your own pediatrician. The next slide will just basically reiterate part of what I said, in that if you answer yes, then your child must stay home. And if you answer no, then of course they should report to school. If your child becomes sick while in school, anyone who's been here, if you've been here before, prior to the COVID year, if your child was sick, they could just go into the nurse's office, lay down for a while. They could go home on a regular school bus, or they could wait as long as necessary for you or someone to be able to come pick them up. However, with the situation that we're in, we need to have students go home as soon as possible, preferably within 30 minutes. We can't send people home on a bus. We can't give them a city bus card, because in the event that they actually are experiencing COVID symptoms, we can't put them in a situation to potentially impact other people. So if you are required to come pick up your child because they're sick, we ask that you just come to the school, either the front or the back, call the main office and just let us know which entrance you are at, and we will send your child out to you. This is another thing that's extremely important for those emergency forms to be filled out, because if there are other people that you are designating to be able to pick up your student, then we need to have that information. The question of can they walk home? I imagine if you give them permission, we may be able to take permission over the phone, and I think it might depend on age. High school age should be fine with that, but I will actually absolutely verify that information for you. I think the answer is yes, but I'll get that information verified, and we'll put like a frequently asked questions, something up on the website maybe, and just be able to give you a better answer to that question. This is the protocol that will be followed in the school building. The teacher or staff has to call, let the nurse know. Nurse will do her protocols in terms of PPE and things of that nature, escort their child to the isolation area so that they're not around other students, take the temp, assess symptoms. The nurse will make the assessment as to whether or not your child needs to go home or not, and will reach out to you. And then in terms of returning to school, if we go to the next slide. In terms of returning to school, there are certain things that we need to be able to check these things off. And they cannot return to school unless they are cleared by the school nurse. And the school nurse may need access to your pediatrician, whatever. So the nurse would be the one to make that decision as to when the child can come back to school after they fulfill these requirements. If there happens to be a positive case in the school, the protocol that is followed is you will be notified that there is a case in the school. However, and that will be in the form of a letter that will go home to everyone to say there is a positive case in the school. If you do not receive contact directly that says your child has been was in direct contact with someone with COVID, that means your child was not directly in contact. For example, if a child is sitting in a classroom, the people who are sitting right around that child, those are the ones who are going to be called for the contact tracing. If your student was in another classroom, has never even met this person who was impacted, then you wouldn't be called for contact tracing. You would just be informed that there was a case in the school. And they would also let you know whether or not you need to keep your child home in quarantine or not. In the nurse's office itself, there are a couple of things that have changed. Normally, nurse's office is just set up. Anybody can come in at any time that they're not feeling well. They can just sit in all the seats that are there. But like everywhere else, everything has been kind of set up so that we keep 3 to 6 feet of social distance. That particular distance will fluctuate based on what the CDC guidance is. Right now, we're at 3 feet. Signage is absolutely posted. Signage is posted about wearing a mask, hand hygiene, there's hand sanitizer station, and there's a plexiglass barrier between the nurse and the students when they come in. In terms of going down to the nurse, students can't just go. They have to actually have a teacher or staff member call the nurse to find out if it is okay for them to come down. Because let's suppose that the nurse is doing a COVID protocol check with a student, we can't have another student just come into that space. So a teacher or staff member has to call and check in with the nurse to make sure it's okay to send the student down. And then another thing that has changed is staff members used to be able to go into the nurse's office and use those restrooms. That is no longer allowed because we need to keep that space as clear from other people as possible. If your child has asthma or anything like that, has an asthma diagnosis, you need to make sure that the action plan, the inhaler, spacer, everything is in the school health office. You need to have those things on site if necessary for your student if they have asthma. As I mentioned earlier, please, 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 please make it a point to enroll in the school-based health clinic. There's no downside to enrolling in the school-based health clinic. You may never use it. You may never have a need to use it. However, if you do have a need, it's so much better to already be set up and be able to have access to it versus us not being able to get your child into the school-based health clinic because they're not enrolled. No one can see them in the health clinic unless they are enrolled. So it is absolutely, it's a positive to enroll them. There's no negative to it whatsoever. There's the information. You can call Ms. Felder at 475-220-5041. And there is a registration form that you can download. It's also on our school website, if I'm not mistaken. As we know, especially if you have a 10th grader, 10th graders must have a physical examination submitted. And this is another thing that if they're registered in school-based health clinic, they can get their physicals done there. Make sure all your immunizations and everything is up to date. If you want to get a flu shot at our health clinic, you can sign up for that as well. Ms. Williams, you're on mute. I don't know if.
I'm muted. Okay, everyone. I can't wait to see you when you get back. I'm very happy we're going to be in person. I hope the summer went well for you. You know, for some of us, this information has been pretty much the same in comparison to what we had when we returned last year. For others, you know, we were fully remote and there are students who are new to the school. So for that reason, you know, we're still going over the fine details to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So I'm going to talk about transportation and building operations for a bit. So firstly, I'm going to talk about the school buses and protocols. We use First Student as our transportation company, and they are responsible for cleaning the buses. They will be disinfecting after every bus run using the equipment and supplies that were approved in terms of EPA standards. If a student appears to be ill, meaning they have the flu-like symptoms, we're talking about cough, sneezing, or in general just does not look good, the bus driver will question the parent or the guardian. And I'm going to say that again. If a student doesn't look well, if the student seems to have flu-like symptoms, the bus driver will question the parent or the guardian. The questions are the same ones Ms. Joyner had referred to, the COVID screening questions. If you've been to the doctor recently, it's those questions. Did you have a fever? Were you around somebody in the family that was ill, and so forth? Nothing out of the norm. And if a parent or guardian says, sorry about that. If a parent or guardian says yes to any of those questions, then we're going to ask the student to stay home. The student will contact the school and his or her teachers to continue learning for that day. Now, that may vary depending on the teacher's expectations, directions, instructions, which once again will come from the syllabus that's provided on the first day of school. Now, if there's no parent or guardian that is there with the student will be transported to the school. The student will be separated as able on the bus, and then upon arrival here, will go directly to the school nurse for evaluation before sending the student off to class. In terms of transportation, NHPS or District New Haven provides transportation for students living more than 2 miles from the campus. I also wanted to point out that those terms or words that are highlighted and are underlined, they are live links. This PowerPoint will be available on the school's website, and also it will be available on YouTube stream. But just in the event you are wondering, I'm just going to click one of the live links. You should be seeing it just the same. This pulls up for you the suburban listing in terms of where you're living and the free buses that are provided through New Haven. If you do not see the name of your town here, we always ask you to call the transportation department for New Haven, which is 475-220-1600, because the school per se does not manage transportation, right? This is done at the district's office. Sorry. So you may want to take down that number. Very important. And the reason I showed you the suburban list is also because if you do not see the town that you reside in, when you call the transportation office, a specialist will help you to decide, okay, you know, does the bus come to a neighboring town, and what time does it come there? And it may be feasible for you to drop your child at the neighboring town to catch the bus to come to school. So those are some of the things that can be worked out through the district office that we cannot do here for you at the school. Okay. In terms of how you're going to know which bus you need to get here, you need a little bit more information. This will come to you via mail. Bus cards are being mailed out. On these bus cards, it will include your bus letter or your number of the bus that you're going to take, the location of the pickup and drop off, and the times of the pickup and drop off as well. Now, you may be wondering if you need to show a bus card upon entering the bus. No, the bus card is just our way of sending the information to you, right? After a few weeks or so, you would have already known the letter or the number bus you're going to take up, and you probably would have mastered the times of the pickup and drop off and so forth. But you don't necessarily need to hand it to a bus driver to get onto the bus. The other thing is, if you're not sure, as usual, you ask the bus driver what's where they're going, and they let you know if this bus is going to Career, even though the bus will have something on it that says Career High School and the number. All right. So that's it for buses. We're going to talk a little bit about, what happens when you come into the building. And of course, social distancing is expected. The only tweak to that is right now, as per CDC, we're being asked to social distance at least 3 feet. And so we say that we want you to maintain 3 to 6 feet social distancing as possible, just for the safety of everyone. So let's talk about access to the building. This is super, super important. We don't want any confusion around this. There's no visitors that will be allowed into the building at any time. There are no exceptions to this rule. So it means no family members, no friends, no volunteers, etc. In a nutshell, unless you have a New Haven Public School badge, you will not have access. Otherwise, other from our students. Now, how do you get in the building? It's going to be the same. Students will enter through the rear entrance, which is the entrance at the back of the building. And at this point, I am going to ask the individual that is marking the screen to not do that. I will need some time to go through and to check the settings because I'm presenting. I'm unable to do that. If you could not do that, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so you're still entering from the back of the building and you have until 8 o'clock to enter from the back of the building. After 8 o'clock, you have to make your way to the front because the back doors are going to be closed. The usual things happen. You stop at the main office first. You fill out a pass there so that you can get it entered into the system and taken to your teacher as a late pass. Okay. And when you get here, the same remains. Once you enter the building, you are going to be here until the end of dismissal. So you're not allowed to go to the corner stores, to the pharmacy, to get food deliveries as well. I want to say if a parent wants to deliver food to their child, then the same protocols follow, and it's going to run into my last tab where if you're here to pick up your child or to give them something, you cannot come into the building. You have to call the main office at 475-220-5000. And if you're here for pickup, you will wait in your car until your son or daughter comes through the door. If you're dropping something off, you'll also wait there until someone from inside the building come and gets it from you. All right, so the traffic flow remains the same where we had the two-way approach with pedestrian lines and arrows. We try to have the flow going in one direction at all times. So let us say on the right, the arrow is always pointing upwards, then students who are headed in that direction will always be on that side, and the same for the next side. So we are envisioning that students will follow the arrows at all time, and to avoid the clustering in the halls and to remain in a good space in terms of social distancing. Now, these signs remain in the building: no mask, no entry, social distancing protocols, signs and symptoms of COVID-19, that is still up, no entry for visitors, entry, exit, and arrows. And that's just because we know a lot happened over the summer. Sometimes we forget, and we really just want to have the signs there so and you don't have to count on asking your friend, and then your friend has a different story. So those things are there to reiterate and to remind you all the time. All right, and so Mr. Ciarcia will talk to you more.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, let me just go here and move. I was answering some chats here, trying to answer some of these questions. All right, so health and wellness. If we can just pop to the next slide. What I'm going to talk about first is the hand hygiene. Okay, so we do have hand sanitizers around the school. They'll be pretty much near on every floor, right next to the bathrooms or cafeteria, and then the stairwells. Who've been in our school, or the 1 gallon jug, so you would give it just a tap, not a full squeeze, and because it is a little greasy, it does smell a little medicine, but sometimes when it smells like medicine, maybe that's because it's strong and it works. So, use that throughout the day. And then we have the hand washing. Obviously, we monitor our bathrooms. Our bathrooms will be going through them at least 3 points during the day, making sure they're cleaned up and they're fully stocked. And everyone should wash their hands as best as possible. I'll go to the next slide. So I was kind of just talking about the bathrooms there. So again, 3 times a day, that will be logged, and we will keep that monitored. There is a limited number that can go into the bathroom, right? So we'll have every other stall or every other urinal will be closed off, and then the sinks same as well. And let's just say the rule of thumb is about 3 students per bathroom. And if you walk in there, so we're going to need help in that, and that comes from the students as well. If you walk in the bathroom and you see 3 already in there, you just step outside. There's markers on the floor, and so that you'll be next in line. We're just going to keep it safe distancing, but we want to make sure everyone gets to use the bathroom. So, and then if you notice that there's no soap or anything in there, just let the person on the outside know, and we'll make sure we'll get on that, but we're monitoring it throughout the day. We should be fine with that. The water fountains will remain covered this year as they were last year. And so you will not have access to water fountains, but you will have access to water through the cafeteria. So we're strongly suggesting that everybody brings a container for themselves, that they could, or a water bottle, preferably plastic. And, just the best way is when you have your mask on and you could take your drink and you can go underneath and you're still keeping your mask on so people can drink in the class. That's probably the only thing that will be allowed in the classroom. No food. So per the CDC guidelines, there are no lockers again this year. And so you want to best, keep your stuff in your book bag. Maybe have an 8A book bag and a B-Day book bag. But we will not be using lockers. And then the high touch areas will be also, so as we're doing the bathrooms, we're also going to be hitting the high touch areas throughout the school, making sure that, those are clean, because they've been obviously touched more than once in a short period of time. Next slide. Thank you. Arrival. So I know Mr. True did briefly talk about the schedule. We still open our doors at 7 a.m. and around 7:35, maybe a little bit later this year, because we do not have lockers. The first bell will ring and everyone will be able to go upstairs. People are expected to be in the classroom by 7:45. That's when class starts. So if somebody did come in, we will leave the back door open at all times up to 8 o'clock. And then after 8 o'clock, people would have to come in through the front door. Students who want to eat breakfast can go directly to the caf. And then the ones that do not want to eat breakfast, we'll have you go over into the gym, just like we did last year. Classrooms, they're set up to be 3 feet apart. Last year was 6. Now we're 3 feet apart. The best way to say, how do I know I'm 3 feet apart? If you put your arm out and you leave another hand distance away, you're 3 feet away from that person. So last year we said put 2 hands out. Everybody put their hands out side by side, and that would be 6. So this year you're just putting 1 hand out. Students will be given their same computer they had last year. So if you had a computer last year, you'll get the same one. If you were here last year and you didn't get one and you need one this year, we'll get you one. And then the freshmen will have the Chromebooks. There's power strips in every classroom. So again, you're in your seat. We want you to charge your computer every night, but we also use it throughout the day, so it may lose a charge. So we will have power strips in the class that's adequate enough for you to be able to stay in the seat you're at and still charge your device, but you're going to need to bring your charger with you each day. So along with bringing your computer, you should bring your charger. And then, that's it. Oh yeah, the last part about that slide is that in the teacher areas or adult areas that are in the room, you need to also remain 3 feet away from there. We call that the no-fly zone. Gatherings and sports, and I think there was a question in the chat on it, and I kind of touched on it. So PBTs and parent gatherings and everything around people coming into the building. Like, no one's going to be coming into the building unless they have a New Haven Public Schools badge. So these will be held virtually now outside of the us. We'll do the Zoom, and there is with athletics. So say I want to see my child play a basketball game and they close it and we can't go to it. Well, we're going to have that. That's a CIAC regulation. It's nothing we can control. And Danny Diaz is the parent liaison for the district, and they are sharing live streaming video links so that we can see the sports, not just from our school, but other schools. If you have a relative in another one, now you can see multiple games. Any specific details around sports? We do have an athletic director, and his name is Mr. Giardini, and he would elaborate on anything I might have missed out on. So when I talk about frequently asked questions, and Ms. Joyner mentioned in the beginning that there may be questions that we might add to our website as frequently asked questions. Here are two common ones that we'd really like to address right here and now. And the first one is, what happens if a student takes off their mask? Well, students and staff will remain, we're going to remind you. And what I mean student and staff, just think of it this way. Every adult in this building has the right to ask you to do something. And we do that with respect. And so if they're not your teacher, if they're not your administrator, they're an adult in the building that we have to monitor each other. So all our staff will be monitoring each other and the students. So you will probably be expected to hear from everybody around, please put the mask on, all right? That it needs to stay on. And if you say yes, that's fine. And then, but if the mask becomes a continual problem, then they're going to contact the main office. Someone's going to come up and we're going to have a conversation with you. So what happens when a student consistently, though, just doesn't follow the health and safety guidelines that have been set up? Well, as you can see, the answer is there. But if that's consistent, we're gonna pull them in. We're gonna talk to them. What may happen is if you as a student, you could say, I need a break. You're entitled to have that break. What we could do is they'll call the main office and someone will come up or will because the teacher can't leave the room, and they'll make sure that you go to a place and have a break. Some of our teachers teach outside during the day. And sometimes they bring them out into a break, right? Because we have 83-minute classes. So we're not going to always be locked into the building, masks on all the time. But in the building, we do have to have them on. So we'll find ways to help give people that break. But if you need it and you feel like you need it, then we'll find a way to get someone to you to get you outside to give you that break. But if we're like not getting cooperation, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to call a parent to come in, pick you up. You would be going home that day, and we're going to have to come up with a plan as what we're going to do going forward. So laptop distribution, I kind of already talked about that. That'll be done by grade. And Mr. Festa is our technology coordinator. He'll take care of that. And it'll be done over the first couple of days. We're going to have to you do grades, each grade at a time, because there are 700 of you. So we just got to figure out the best way to do that. And he'll have a plan on that. So probably we'll call down, as it says here, classes will be called down. And then, like I said before, incoming freshmen will receive Chromebooks. Okay. Next slide. So the emergency protocols, fire drill and lockdowns, that's going to be reviewed in your classes because each class will have a different path in which you have to go. But when it comes to lockdowns specifically, the only big difference between a lockdown you may have done in the past versus now with COVID is that you would not huddle into one corner. So the teachers do have keys to the doors. The doors are locked. The doors are closed, and there's a covering for the window. You would stay in your seats, and you would stay the distance, but you would stay quiet. And we are going to have fire drills every month, and we were going to have a couple lockdowns, and the district may have one without us knowing throughout the year as well. So you plan on at least 3 lockdown drills. Those are going to be, someone's going to come and check the doors and listen for noises and try to see where our holes are in our plan. And then, we're going to have to, we submit a report on that, and we have to fine tune it. So those drills are real as best we can make them, so that we never have to actually have a real thing, but we're ready do what we need to do in a crisis. And the fire drills, we go outside. So you stay with your class, you go out there, you stay in my department, we account for everybody, and then we bring everyone back in. This is done every month right through the entire year. Next slide, please.
And that concludes our slides.
Okay.
So I know there's a lot of information that was covered here today. This presentation will also be available shortly on our school website at careerhighschool.org. That's a great reference for anyone to be able to access any important information that you may need to in regards to our high school or our school in general. I know that we have been attending the chat and answering the questions that you've put into the chat. Again, if you are having any difficulty with filling out your orientation forms online, or you need support with the parent portal, username, password, and things like that, you would contact our parent liaison, Miss Christy Beaton, and we will assist you the best we can. Am I forgetting anything else, team?
I think that is it. I just want to let you know that the orientation forms that Mr. True was referring to, they are on the New Haven Public School website. That information needs to be filled out online. This year we're paperless, we're not really having to do that in the school. There were glitches around it yesterday because everybody was in, so just continue to try with that. I did receive an email that everything was up and running and it is fine. When the PowerPoint is made available on the school's website, once again, there are direct links there. For instance, the form to sign up at the school-based clinic. If you click here, it automatically pulls it up, and those kind of things when we put it there. All right.
Also, Ms. Williams, the
Yes,
forms are in their Power School account, the parents' Power School account only. So if they try with the student can view it, but the student cannot fill them out. There was a glitch in that.
Okay.
So they need to use the parents' account. If they do not have that or they need to reset it, they can contact me to get their initial request. But if they need to reset it, we would have to just send me an email and we'll get IT to reset it for you. But it's all through Power School.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Beaton.
You're welcome.
So I was talking to the athletic director so I could answer some of the questions from athletics. So I might have missed a couple of things, but I just see someone asked about when will we get our schedules. Did someone answer that already?
Yeah, if you ask the same question. Chief. What's in school?
So the schedules will be up on Power School. And I think I talked about that earlier, so maybe that person just came in a little bit late. Schedules will be up on Power School. So as long as you have your Power School access, you can see the schedules, but don't count on them being perfectly accurate right now because there are still glitches. There's still different things that are being worked out in the schedules. So Monday morning when you come in, follow the schedule that you have. If you happen to have holes in your schedule, then during the time of the class that you have a hole, you would go to the auditorium and the counselors will be there to fill those holes for you. We're not making any schedule changes until the following week. So starting on September 6th is when we'll start making schedule changes. And that window will be open for 2 weeks. So from the 6th to the 17th. The son is new to the school. Does he get a new Power School for this school? If your son is a New Haven student, their access is the same. If your son is from out of district, then we would need to, you could call the school and give us your name, and then we can print it. We could download and forward you, email you the information in terms of